abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya
abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya
abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya
abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya
yo mfazi ongena nkombo
nkombo ziyathengwa zithengwa ngemali wena uzakwaliwa ngumfazi emakhaya
wosithi bakhala ngento enjalo
wosithi bakhala ngento enjalo
wosithi bakhala ngento enjalo
wosithi bakhala ngento enjalo emakhaya Elzana
abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya
abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya
abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya
abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya
yo mfazi ongena nkombo
nkombo ziyathengwa zithengwa ngemali
wena uzakwaliwa
ngumfazi emakhaya
abanye baphelele
abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة
Kai says, and good day to all. Home is where the heart is, a common expression, although in some sense so abstract, so spiritual, with such a deep connection for many globally. Home is where the heart is. As we gather across continents to listen to the voices with diverse backgrounds, home is a commonality deep within all of us. Although the origin of home may be so different to us all, we can all draw a relation between home, ancestry, tradition, language, and spirituality. As we are sitting within our individual spaces, I would like you to stop, be still, clear your thoughts, ground your feet into the earth, reflect on your breath, feel your heart beating. As you become aware of your heartbeat, gently unfold the cells encapsulating your heart. Connect to the core of your existence. Feel the link between your heartbeat, your breath, and the vibration emitted by the soil. Feel the waves of energy release from your core to your heart. That energy you are feeling is connecting you to the core of your existence. When I unfold the layers of my genealogy, I have a strong and deep connection to the southern hemisphere of Africa, specifically the Western Cape, the core of my existence, the core of my ancestry. My name is Zebada January, and I'm a Khoi indigenous woman. I'm the daughter, granddaughter, and great-great-granddaughter of a long line of Abram Januaries. My ancestry connects me to the core of the southern hemisphere of Africa. My ancestors were the caretakers and guardians of the Capes in South Africa. We were here before any invasion and injustices, and we're still here. Colonialism, religion, politics, and expansionism has caused significant trauma to my ancestors who cared for this land. Our personal space were invaded without permission, without our welcome, and without our consent. Our traditions, appearances, and language did not coincide with Western civilization, and therefore it was considered okay to disconnect us from our land, okay to disconnect us from our traditions, okay to disconnect us from our spirituality, okay to disconnect us from our language, and okay to declare us dead by genocide. Today, my people are identityless. We have nothing left. We carry the trauma of the past to our present and future generations. What is done in the past is done. But to give restoration to the horrors and injustices of the past, to bring honor, respect, hope, and healing to the present and future generations, let us pay tribute and never forget the sacrifices and trauma experienced by our ancestors. Let us not forget the wisdom and care that they have given to the land for millennia. While we acknowledge the suffering of our ancestors, let us not keep the bitterness of the past within us. Let us keep their voices and wisdom alive and never forget the forgotten. Let's break the cycle of intergenerational trauma and the impact colonialism has on humanity and our ecosystems. By acknowledging the love and care that our ancestors has given to the land and keep their wisdom alive, let us not allow for the truth, our truth, to be buried deep within the soil of the earth. Let's encourage the inclusion of all peoples by taking the first step to healing. Together, let us decolonize mindsets and intent. Let us do this for our present and emerging generations and encourage an inclusive world where nobody is left behind. The acknowledgement of land is not an official declaration within South Africa yet. I'm privileged and humbled by having this opportunity to welcome you safely in my space on Khoi traditional land in Cape Town, also known as the Mother City. No matter your heritage, the color of your skin, your religion, your culture, identity, or gender orientation, we all have an indigeneity within us, and we all connected to sacred soil. Me and you, we have the privilege of being here in the present. Our names are imprinted in the soil of the earth. When you leave your earthly home, what footprints are we going to leave behind? Are we going to do what's right for one, or are we going to do what's right for all? Kangans, which means thank you in Khoi. I'm humbled and blessed for sharing my truth and the truth of my ancestors with you.
As we move together into a time of sacred prayer at the start of the Africa Symposium, let us share a thought for all of those who have gone before, for the ancients who have passed and become ancestors, but more recently, for all of those who have passed due to COVID, due to violent extremism, due to conflict, due to poverty. Let us think about the suffering of the world just for a moment and send healing to all of our brothers and sisters all over the planet. Africa is a place of healing. Let us reflect on these thoughts as we listen now to Cantor Ivor Jaffe of the Morero Road Shul in Greenpoint, Cape Town, as he sings the exquisite Prayer for the Dead.
במעלות קדושים וטהורים, בזוהר הרקיע מזהירים. את נשמות כל אלו שמתו מקורונה, שהלכו לעולמם. ברור שאנחנו מתפללים על אזכרת נשמתם, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם. לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירם בצדק כנפיו לעולמים. בצרור החיים את נשמתם, וינוחו בשלום המשכבם, ונאמר אמן.
Jai Jinendra, I bow down to the Lord in all of you. In the middle of night, Mahatma Gandhi was abandoned at a train station in South Africa as he was a man of color in a first-class train. It took more than 100 years after that for apartheid to be made unlawful. And since last year, we continue to see a worldwide rise in call for diversity and inclusion. When will we all say, this has to be behind us, and only read of this in history books? When will this racial injustice end? And it is just not this issue. The world today is in the brink of economic and environmental disaster. More and more of our rainforests are getting barren, glaciers are melting, and sea levels are rising. Poverty, hatred, injustice, lack of education, and other basic needs continue to remain challenges as we try to explore fun trips to the space and back. Are our priorities in the right place? My brothers and sisters from Africa, I applaud you for your continued support to the Parliament as we keep the dialogue live and continue to work to find solutions to all these issues. I welcome you to this wonderful Africa track of the 8th Parliament of the World's Religions. We met all of you in Cape Town in the 3rd Parliament, and we rise together again on this virtual platform to celebrate the resilience of the human race and to continue to expand our horizons to make a better tomorrow. Thank you for joining, and together we shall all move forward. Jai Jinendra.
Thank you, Mr. Nitin Ajmera, the chairman of the board of Parliament of the World's Religions, for that very warm welcome. We have in Africa and in South Africa and indeed in Cape Town a very warm relationship and a very strong history with the Parliament of the World's Religions. As Mr. Ajmera said, Cape Town hosted the 3rd Parliament. It was the very first Parliament that was hosted outside of Chicago. So it makes it a very special pleasure for us to be with you here today. My name is Reverend Behr. I'm an interfaith interspiritual minister, and I'm also the chairperson of Cape Town Interfaith Initiative, which was in fact born out of that 3rd Parliament held in Cape Town. It is my honor to serve as your host for today's session. Today's Africa Symposium, as you know, is part of the Parliament of the World's Religions 2021. Our opening address coming up now is brought to you by a veteran of interfaith engagement in Africa, in South Africa, and his name is Maulana Syed Aftab Haider. He is the leader of the Ahlul Bayt Mosque in Ottery in Cape Town, and he has been a part of the Cape Town interfaith family since its inception. Welcome, Maulana.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Almighty God, the most gracious, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Respected friends and dear colleagues, I'm indeed honored to speak at this prestigious platform of the World Parliament of Religions 2021. I am speaking from a land where faith is an integral part of its people. I am speaking from a continent where 1 of every 10 persons identify themselves with a religion, where religious leaders are more trusted and less widely seen as corrupt than any other group of public leaders. Findings from national surveys done in 2020 shows religious affiliation as well as tolerance for other religions are cross-cutting characteristics of African masses and publics. Majorities in all countries are religious and claim religious affiliation and profess tolerance and acceptance for those of other faiths. This is Africa. I am also speaking from Islamic background, where Africa is the first continent to welcome Islam and accept and embrace Islam as their faith. I'm speaking from Africa, where 1/3 of total Muslim population lives and resides. When we speak about Africa with this little statistics I have given, it becomes very clear that religion and the religious leaders are extremely important role players in addressing any challenge and any other aspect of the life on this continent. It also becomes very clear that taste of religious affiliation in African continent is far from extremism, but rather it has its own taste and culture of acceptance and tolerance. More specifically in Southern Africa, we speak about Ubuntu, or a spirit of Ubuntu, which simply means I am here because of you. My very existence is recognized by your existence, an acceptance of your existence or existence of the other. And therefore, respected friends and colleagues in World Parliament of Religions 2021, which has started or which has been introduced with the theme of open heart of compassion for all, that Africa is the most fertile place and ground for open heart, for compassion, for love and care for others. Islam and Islamic teachings and Quranic principles of human dignity and equality of all humanity in creation and in achieving of perfection and progress are well rooted in Africa and in African societies. Of course, and indeed, in recent years, we have witnessed appearance of or phenomena of extremism in form of religious groupings like Boko Haram or Al-Qaeda or Shabab in certain parts of Africa. And unfortunately, number of African governments are complicit in this, or in introducing or strengthening of this extremist phenomena. However, I strongly believe that the very fiber of our faith in general and Islamic teachings and Quranic values in particular can play an extremely significant role in addressing this challenge of extremism. They have tried, but it could not become, thanks to God, a common phenomenon in the streets of Africa. But at the same time, Africa faces a number of other serious challenges. Challenges of corruption, especially in political leadership. Challenges of poverty, and more particularly after the COVID-19 pandemic. And again, I believe that faith and religion and principal values of Islamic faith, which is predominant in African continent, can bring a great hope, can bring a great strength to face address and fight these challenges. Issue of corruption can be combated with the concept of taqwa and piety and belief in God and sense of accountability. The challenge of poverty, COVID-19, can be faced, can be addressed with a very basic concept of compassion and care and ihsan in Islamic teachings. Of course, and indeed, African people live in the most natural environment if you compare them to other parts of the world. And climate change and environmental challenges are very serious to Africa and African people. Again, we strongly believe that faith and leadership of faith traditions can play a crucial role in addressing this issue and this challenge. When we look at Islamic teachings, again, the whole approach of Islamic ideology or theology toward nature, toward environment, toward earth, toward our environment is a unique approach of looking at all this as amana, or as the trust of Almighty Allah or God in hands of human being and mankind. And treating nature, environment, earth, and its resources with the approach of being a trust in our hand, as Quran calls it, as Quran regards it. I believe with this message of faith, with this message of basic Islamic values and principles, we can go very far. But what I would like to say and add here in my brief and short message to the World Parliament of the Religions 2021, that religious leadership need to come out and speak loudly and express their very important spiritual presence in different spheres of life. When it comes to corruption, we need to be people who speak truth to the power and not justifying and covering the crimes of political leadership. When it comes to poverty and crisis in our societies on human levels, we need to be speaking out, to be present there. Our very presence itself is extremely important, and unfortunately, we are missing on that. We are not there. In South Africa, we have experienced in the most difficult situations, conflicting situations where violence was inevitable, presence of spiritual leaders, the spiritual presence of religious leadership resolved and addressed and protected the society. We need to stand up based upon, inspired from our religious texts, and in case of Islam, more particularly from Quran and practice of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to stand and to be present in society and to speak out based upon those principles and values. I hope and I pray for all the success for this World Parliament of Religions in its message of peace, peaceful coexistence, acceptance of each other, tolerance, respect, and promotion of justice, and especially environmental justice in our world, in our global village in which we are living. Thank you very much once again with the greeting of peace. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Duplakis was there in concert with Zenzi Nugavu, and the song they were singing, Mampinga, or means stand up to oppose. I'm just checking the technical issues there. There we are. Yeah, so the song Mampinga means to stand up or to oppose, and it is also the name of Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu's wife. Very timely, since it was the Archer's 90th birthday just a few days ago, followed by his wife's birthday just 3 days ago. So what a beautiful rendition of a very important song. And it brings us back to the idea of Ubuntu. What is it that we have when we draw down to our roots to find the answers to our challenges of today? We come back to that place of Ubuntu, and we realize that the further and further we have gone away from our roots, the more challenging our times have become. And so Africa is so much more than the challenges of COVID, poverty, unemployment, and food insecurity. Africa is a place of vibrant connection to living earth. It is a place of abundance, wisdom, healing, and deep spiritual knowledge. As we look to these gifts and attributes of the African heartbeat, it becomes essential to understand who we are and what we have.
Sister Letta Mosue is a Catholic nun and the Mother Superior of her convent in the Order of St. Bridget. She is also a traditional healer, a clinical psychologist, and a custodian of sacred sites. Sister Letta will speak to us today of the need to decolonize the African psyche. And as you listen to Sister Letta, please feel free to submit questions via the Q&A box, and we'll put them to Sister Letta after this presentation.
I'm greeting you as people who will be listening to my story. I'm a healer by birth because I come from a family of healers, both on my father and my mother's side. At the age of 15, I left home to join the convent. And I thought everything about healing I've left behind. Because at that time, I didn't realize it's in my DNA. There was no way I was going to get rid of it. I was trained in the religious life in the convent, the ways of life of the convent. But when I was asked then to do psychology, that's where things turned around. I rediscovered myself. Because when I was going to do my master's, I remember the sister who was my mentor at the time saying to me, "You are going to become a Western Sangoma." Little did I know that my ancestors were saying, now is the time that I have to reclaim being an African Sangoma as well. So when I went to Maritzburg to study masters, the universe made sure that I was in a house with another sister who was a healer, who became my mentor in this journey of reclaiming my identity. I had many questions. I felt schizophrenic because I couldn't see how I could relate the two. But with her help, slowly but surely, I began to really feel comfortable in my skin. And I no longer was schizophrenic because for me, religious life did not contradict who I was as a healer, and being a psychologist as well didn't contradict what I was as a healer. So then when I consulted the healers and I was told then that, your ancestors say, how is it that you are comfortable in becoming a Western Sangoma and you are not comfortable in being an African Sangoma? I said, I'll take them both. Little did I know that again, they were listening. And so I ended up having as my master's thesis to have to bring in this topic of the role of the dead living in the African family system. And that also was a journey. And I didn't realize that it was a very important journey because now I had experiences of how truly ancestors were working. So as a healer then, I began to enjoy reconciliation ceremonies that I attended with this sister, and later I had to do myself. So when I came back from my studies in Natal, I felt a bit isolated because I didn't know healers around me until again the universe intervened and I would meet with different healers through the clients I was seeing in therapy because sometimes there were issues that I just felt that only a healer, a true healer who has all the trainings, would be able to help them. But also I had contact with the first healer that I met in Natal. And with her help again, I began to know how to even conduct certain rituals to help my clients. I learned a lot from that woman. May her soul rest in peace. Now I have joined a movement called Sanka Circle, which is a movement of group of healers who are custodians of African indigenous knowledge system. And together we are helping one another, because some are young healers who need also mentoring, who need also to be taught some of the wisdom of the ancient. So together we are doing healing work. We meet once a month during the full moon. We meet virtually, because this Sanka Circle started after the death of Credo Mutwa, who inspired one of our members to start 21 days of initiation. So when COVID started, we went into training. We went inside ourselves to rediscover who we were as Africans. And then I'm also a member of the Forum of African Psychology, whose aim is to emancipate or decolonize the African psyche in order to restore our identity as Africans. We know that as Africans, we have met with many challenges about who we are spiritually and emotionally. But now there's an urgent need for us to reclaim who we are, not to apologize about our spirituality and our being, but to be proud, because our ancient ones are actually now paving the way, helping us to reclaim that which we lost because of colonialism and slavery. Thank you.
Sister Letta, I believe that you are in the room with us. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. And while you're busy doing that, I want to just express deep gratitude to you for sharing your path and your experience so generously with us. And if you could put your camera on as well, that would be wonderful, so that we could ask some questions. If anybody has any questions, I can't see the chat box, so I'm going to ask one of my technical colleagues to assist with that. That would be great.
Can you see me?
I can see you, Sister Letta. Yes, welcome. And thank you so much for joining us today for this very special occasion. And thank you for sharing your path, because it's such an important subject for us to discuss today, the decolonization of the African psyche, and of course, how are we going to reclaim that identity of ours? You've said a number of very, very interesting things in your talk. And one of the interesting things that I'd like to unpack a little bit is that the other religions, or religions that are not African traditional, struggle sometimes with the idea of speaking to ancestors. So, but you seem to have found a way to integrate the idea of being a Catholic nun is completely natural to you, as is the idea of being a traditional healer. Where is God? How have you managed to integrate your ancestors and God, and what is the relationship? Can you speak to that for us?
Thank you, Behr. I'm trying to find, because I don't know, the network seems to be giving trouble. So
if you stand still right there, you're perfect. Right there is absolutely perfect.
Okay, yeah. Well, as a Catholic, I thought the understanding of ancestors would be much, much easier because we have the so-called saints who are the dead, you know, Saint Monica, Saint who are not, some of them Africans. But I began to realize that this is more racial. When there was a problem with me talking to my ancestors than it was for me to talk to the saints. The saints are accepted that I can talk to them, I can pray to St. Bridget, but I'm not allowed to pray to my granny. And actually for me, even that challenge came to, I came to realize that actually we are not actually praying to ancestors. We communicate with them. We ask them to help us. Like I would ask you, will you please help me with this problem or that problem? So I didn't sort of see why there was such an issue about me talking to my ancestors and being guided by them. Because they would say to you, pray to St. Bridget. If I say, no, I'll pray to my granny, then if that's the case, there's a problem. So for me, then I realized that, no, there's something wrong here. It's more racial than religious. So I don't know if that answers your question. So therefore, it made me even be more determined to say, I would rather stay with my ancestors because they know me, I bear their blood, and therefore they are just as good as the saints in the Catholic Church. They can intercede for me to God.
I appreciate that answer. So really what you're saying to us, or the way I'm understanding it, is that when you are speaking to your ancestors, you're actually accessing God through your ancestors in the same way as we would access God through the saints in the Christian tradition. So Letta,
yes, yes, that's what
Okay, so thank you for that. And that takes us to the next question, which is, how do you see the relationship between Western healing methodologies and African traditional healing? What should that relationship look like?
What we are unpacking, like yesterday, I was on the panel for the very thing, decolonizing psychology. And one of the things that was coming up was in Western psychology, talking is the most important. And according to Rutendo Ngara, it's just one bit of the tree of life. And we Africans embrace the whole tree. Not only do we talk, but we also have rituals and ceremonies that help us get in touch with our ancestors. So when the Western psychology expect me to see the whole hour, even maybe every week or every month with a patient, in the African tradition, as soon as I realized that what is coming is more relational, it's not individual. It has to do with this person's ancestry. Then we have to begin to look at the wider circle of this person, who they are, where they come from. I have found sometimes even in my therapy with people, sometimes I ask, do you come from a family of healers? And they say to me, how do you know? I said, no, I'm asking because I'm feeling something that says to me, you are a healer yourself. So you must be coming from a family of healers. One time I said to someone, do you come from a royal family? He said, no, we never spoke about it. Where did you get it? I said, that's why I'm asking you. And I could see that her problem was with leadership, where she was working. She could not take orders. And I always say to people, if you come from royal family, with our kings and queens, they don't take orders, they give orders. So if I'm not aware who I am in my identity, that I come from the royal, from royalty, what will happen to me is I'll find myself then listening, taking orders from people who should be serving me. And there will be some conflict there then because of that.
So what we're really hearing is that it's almost as if the holistic approach and the reaching down to our roots for our Ubuntu. Sister Letta, the drums are fine. We're not worried about the drums. In fact, it's lovely to hear them in the distance. But so don't worry about the drums. But what I'm hearing from you is that, in fact, the idea of the more holistic and more integrated psyche, integrated with our ancestors, integrated with our environment, this is actually a gift that we should be taking to the Western world. Am I right?
Yes, yes, that's what we should, because being holistic in our approach is very, very important than just being individualistic. But I can understand that in the Western culture, the individual takes the center because everything else is based on the philosophy of the importance of the individual. For us, as you heard the speaker before who said, the Ubuntu says, I am because you are. So it cannot be my problem alone, it's our problem. What I'm going through is our problem, not my problem. And so if you don't involve the family, both living and dead, then you are isolating me from all this support system that can help me in my journey and my life.
That's very helpful and an interesting point to reflect on. I see now that there are a couple of questions in the chat, and there's the one question that I see is, can you be more specific about what it means to decolonize the African psyche? Can you give possibly an example of that? Or do you think you've already done that?
I will repeat it again, but why I said we need to decolonize the African psyche. You know, with colonialism and the missionary endeavor that came to say we are pagans, we were taken away from our spirituality. We Africans are very spiritual and we don't have compartmentalization of this is this, this is that. That's why we talk of holistic, being holistic. So now since the colonialism that said we are backwards and our ways of doing things are backwards, we have been trying so hard to adopt what the Westerners say is a good integrated human being. And it's not helping us. Even they themselves now realize that it hasn't taken them anywhere. So for us is to reclaim our identity as African and say, you know, we have always been holistic and we come, as I say, from generations and generations of healers, let's say, of people who really were connected to the earth. They were not separated from the earth. So the earth, the land fed them and they fed the land. Now we are pursuing, as I say, what according to the Western people is somebody with an integrated identity. So the rest of us have foreclosed identity because we cannot reach the Western level of maturity, let's say. They see us as perpetual children. So that's why we need to begin to uphold our culture, our rituals, our ceremonies, and get in touch with who we really are. And the ancient civilizations that they made like apartheid and colonialism made sure that we learn. The whole package of education, as I said yesterday, is actually against us as Africans because our civilizations never features in any of the books. I grew up not even knowing that Timbuktu was in Africa. I thought it was like a methodology, a mythology to say, I'm going to Timbuktu, meaning the place I don't know where. because we were never taught about the ancient civilizations of Africa. So we need to go back and reclaim those ancient wisdom so that we can learn from our ancestors, the ancient ancestors, what we are supposed to do today with our problems.
Thank you, Sister Letta. And that actually brings us to the final question. And I'm going to wrap with this question. It comes also from the chat from David Cohen. I believe, he says, there is value in the Judeo-Christian Bible, but as we know, the Bible was used to justify slavery. It has references that seem to approve of slavery. For example, Colossians 3:22, which says, slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything, and do it not only when their eye is on you to curry their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord. So David is asking, does that use of the Bible present any difficulties to it being taught from in Africa? And do you have any suggestions, Sister Letta, for interpreting such passages?
You know, what I've come to realize in the Bible is everybody has an answer. People say to me, why don't you marry? Because God said, increase and multiply. Why are you not married as a nun? So I have my answer to say, but Jesus says there are people who are made eunuchs by society, who are born like that way, and those who choose to be. So each one has got an answer. So such readings of obey your masters, I don't take them literally as I have to obey a Western person. Actually, I get even very angry when I realize that this is maybe aimed at us to say, you know, we have to keep on obeying people who are actually oppressing us, who take us not as human beings, but they treat us worse than animals because they are good at treating their animals. Their animals eat with them in the same dish, but they won't eat with us in the same dish. So we are treated worse than animals. And who treat us like that? The so-called Christians.
Sister Letta, that is giving us a lot of food for thought right there. So I'm going to leave this discussion because we are starting to reach the end of our time, but it has been a most fascinating, interesting, and thought-provoking discussion. Thank you. Thank you for your time and thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, and enjoy the drums.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Blessings on your day.
Where is my land? Where can I raise my children? When will my feet touch anointed soil? Where blood was shed for our freedom, where I can freely exist, pray, give recognition to my ancestors. Where can I lay my people to rest? Where can I flock my sheep, drink from the rivers? Where is my land? When will my existence be acknowledged? When will my echo through the mountains? When will I walk among lions? When will my clicking tongue be heard, taught in school? Has my country forgotten my ancestry? My ancestry blemished, my ancestry tortured, my ancestry silenced, my ancestry forgotten. Are we the forgotten people? Are we not part of this land? Are we not from the same soil who provides life to this land, the same soil? Bones of my bones buried in this soil. The voiceless, the obscured heroes who lived from the soil, who grew in the soil, turned into soil. When can I lay in my cradle? My mother's breast milk turned into dust. In this dust, my ancestral footsteps wiped off the earth, my clicking tongue silenced, hidden from my generations, my ancestral identity altered, my ancestral identity misunderstood, my true identity in my origin. My bloodlines flow through many rivers, my soul language engraved on rocks through many deserts, blowing ram horns on top of majestic mountains. When can my daughters be crowned, carry their womanhood proud? When? Do we not share the same sunrise? And does the moon not light the same night sky? Are we the forgotten people? Where is my land? When can my people rest? When can my people come home? Where is my land? Where?
Hello, my name is Makati Mokoena, Pilgrim in Heels. And I call myself a pilgrim because my life has been a pilgrimage to self. Now, it wasn't always that way. I grew up, most of my life actually, I had a sense of of something is missing in my life. And completely undefined. I mean, for the most part, I had what could easily be termed low-grade depression, maybe melancholy, and which left me, it plunged me sometimes into dark moments that I really couldn't understand. And it's only much later, as I grew older, that I realized that, oh, actually, this is my soul calling to me. This is a soul's longing. And I think that part of my understanding emerged because my mother, when I was growing up, actually when I was very young, she too had a calling, a calling to become a traditional healer. And she could respond to it in a way that assisted her to undertake a healing journey. And of course, she raised us, my parents raised us in that family where we could honor the African way of healing, traditional healing in the African way. This is significant because at the same time, they were Catholic. But for some reason, there was no discord between the practice of Catholicism, devout Catholicism, as well as African traditional healing. I grew up with rituals and ceremony. Of course, Catholicism is filled with ritual and ceremony, but also at home, events were marked by ritual and ceremony. That deepened the experience of whatever was happening in our lives at the time. And I'm incredibly grateful to have watched my parents model to me what is possible when we respond to a soul's longing and using the tools, the technologies that are readily available to us. I think that one way that is important for us as Africans, for us as human beings, but particularly for us as Africans, I'm using the Africa as an example because I am an African woman. What's important for us is to be able to claim our ways, to be able to go back, not in a sort of wistful, ungrounded manner, but in a way of reclaiming what has always been in us, reclaiming the tools that were essentially demonized by practices of colonialism and everything that it brought along with us, that told us as Africans that actually your ways, and it's not just Africans, I think that a lot of indigenous nations have been socialized into believing that their ways are not good enough, and rather pick this way up because that is the way to God. Now, I know I've had a personal experience of knowing that there are many ways to divinity. And one of the experiences that has assisted me to understand that there are many ways to experience in divinity, of course, it's through my growing up in a family that practiced Catholicism and deep African spirituality. But I recently participated in a 6-part docuseries called Pilgrim. And in Pilgrim, I explored different modalities of experiencing God within, different ways that assist us to take that journey within, not God out there, not God up in the sky, but to go within inside and connect with God that is us, with God that is everything. And so in the docuseries, I explored different ways. I journeyed with many ways, with many modalities, plant medicines, with breath work and movement, in order to part that veil and to just come to that still point that is within, that says, Makati, the home you have been seeking has always been within, and welcome home. And know that that longing, you are worthy. It is a valid longing that you have had all your life. But keep coming back within. Keep coming back to your center. Keep coming back to your heart and feel the home, feel the God, feel God within. So you're about to watch a snippet of the docuseries and enjoy.
Ke alilhebo ga bademo ibele ke motlotlo ka dithuso le dikeletso tsa go ka tlhaloganya semelo sa me. Open hearts, open minds, the great spirit will look to find a pilgrim's journey is told. A new beauty unfolds. Spirit in the wind, love is the cord that binds us.
I have 92 pairs of shoes, 63 of which are high heels. Now tell me, if you dedicate your life to that of a pilgrim, would you have 63 pairs of heels? Damn right you would and should. Life is hard. Might as well look fabulous as you stumble your way through it. My name is Makati Mukwena, Pilgrim in Heels, and welcome to Pilgrim. Now, the show is essentially about an exploration, a spiritual exploration of the soul. We all have a sense that there is much more to this life than we are experiencing. I grew up with a mother who was a traditional healer, and two of my sisters actually are also traditional healers. And the thing that my parents did was to straddle Catholicism with African traditional healing. And I think what that did for me, it gave me permission to understand that actually there are many different paths that are not discordant, but can actually be integrated in order to assist with walking the spiritual path towards divinity. So what I'll be doing in this program is I will be ingesting some psychotropic plant medicines to assist with achieving transcendental states of consciousness. And some of the processes will involve breath work or movement, for instance. I'm hoping that sharing these journeys with you will inspire you to develop and perhaps deepen your own spiritual journey. My first ceremonial experience is me ingesting the Nishipai plant medicine. Nishipai is a powerful teacher plant from the Americas. I've been in conversation with the shaman who's going to be facilitating the ceremony. And he's been giving me very specific and clear direction around what I can eat, what I should be leaving out, just so that I am fully prepared for this really powerfully transformative experience. So, I'm having de-alcoholized bubbly. Well, because I'm not allowed to have my wine over there. It's okay. This is good. So what our shaman has told us we cannot have: no salt, no vinegar, no hot food, no chilies of any sort, and no meat, no sugar, no caffeine. Thank heavens I'm not much of a coffee drinker. What he has said is the food has to be as simple and as bland as possible. I've noticed since starting the preparation for Nishipai 3-4 weeks ago that this gogo medicinal plant has been working on me. My father has been coming to me. Now, my father passed away 10 years ago. It's almost as if he's introducing me to an experience, to a masculine experience against this very feminine medicinal plant that Nishipai is. And it's interesting for me because I've been exploring how the masculine, the sacred masculine, and the divine feminine reside side by side inside of me.
Thank you, Mokgadi, Dr. Mokgadi Mokoena. What an amazing pilgrimage. And so we continue today with the themes of our roots planted in diverse cultures, the hero's journey, and the soul of the pilgrim. We are all part of each other's journey, a collective reflection of Ubuntu, I am because you are, and because you are, I am. A modern Africa embraces so many diverse modalities which inform African spirituality and make interfaith collaboration critically important as we grapple with the issues of the day. 2 years ago in Cape Town, 2 men who have both passed helped create a document called the Cape Flats Declaration. The motivation was to unite diverse faith leaders to grapple with the social ills of gangsterism, drugs, violence, and crime, apart from other social justice issues swirling through the streets every day. The faith leaders found in each other a support group like no other, living in daily trauma, immersed in the struggle for survival of the communities they serve. They have also united to form a resilient force, supporting each other in places where there is no other support and where no one else will support them, offering each other sanctuary for discussion, assistance, acceptance, and deep understanding. It's time now for us to meet Pastor Gertjie de Vries Bork, a Lutheran minister living and working in the heart of the Cape Flats.
Thank you for having me. First and foremost, I'm deeply honored, at the same time humbled, to be associated with such God-fearing, respected men and women of the interfaith. Yes, I appreciate their company. At the same time, I appreciate the lessons that we can learn together. Secondly, I am grateful for the opportunity to participate in this conversation of the importance of the interfaith in the Cape Flats. We have started in August 9, 2019 under the powerful leadership of Wilfred Elcock, who have recently passed away. But his spirit is still alive with us, and we are moving in the right direction. Faith leaders has a moral and spiritual mandate that should never be compromised. And I think for this few years that we are together, we have built bridges of friendship, but not only build the bridges, also cross those bridges. And I think that is important. One of our leaders in the interfaith once said, I find myself in this group of people because some of my identity is in you as a Muslim, is in you as a Hindu, is in you as a Christian, is in you as a South African. So I think that is crucial for us. The interfaith has opened up the opportunity for us all to engage meaningfully, but also visibly. And the challenges that we have experienced over these few years has really bring us closer together. For example, one of the challenges that we have faced is the devastating fire in Vryheidskraal, where a lot of people lost their property. At least 2 people died during that time. It is interesting that those negative things has brought us together and has even made me to take a bold step and rope in the interfaith to assist me in advice, in counseling, in distributing food parcels and clothes. I, as a Christian, and we as a church, would not be able to do it on our own. Hence, the interfaith made a huge impact in rebuilding the lives of these people in Vryheidskraal. Dear friends, I think the interfaith has a dynamic power who is able to connect the dots and bring a holistic approach in terms of counseling and healing. Again, I guess that there are things that I personally hold very dear. to my heart, and that is that the interfaith is the body who can speak truth to power, and it should continue to do so. From a Christian point of view, we would say that the church has got a prophetic voice, and the church must speak for the voiceless and challenge those in power to address the issues of poverty, inequality, address the issues of unemployment, address the issues of abuse, address the issues of violence against women and children. Together as an interfaith, we can do it, and we have proven that we are capable of doing that. The strength of the interfaith is its inclusivity. We are not divided but inclusive, and I think for each and every one there is still space. And therefore we actually make also an invitation to the listeners that they should join us so that the circle can become bigger. Friends, thank you so much. I just want to share with you also that I appreciate the interfaith for the fact that it addresses uncomfortable issues that forces you to get from your comfort zone into the reality of the complexity of our societies and communities. In conclusion, I would like to suggest two things. The one being that I think in the interfaith initiative, we need more young people. And it's about time that the younger folks come on board so that this initiative can be seen through in all its phases. And lastly, I think we should, with seriousness and with jealousy, protect the beauty that we have in each other and pray, as we normally do, that God will sustain the good work that has been started long ago with those that has passed on, that those that are presently leading, and with those that are still coming. I hope these few words make sense to our hearers and listeners, and yeah, let the spirit of our comrades, the spirit of those who fight for justice and peace, may their spirit live forever, and may we find strength in the work that they have given us to do. I thank you. of August 2019, we marched all to the Joseph Stone Auditorium, and we signed the declaration which we all agreed to serve our communities, to serve our families, and to bring back their dignity. And therefore I appeal to all of you to have a close look at this video, as this is the efforts of 2 years putting together so that we as a body can move forward and have your blessing that we continue the good work that God has started within each one of us.
Nothing can exist outside of your life. Nothing will
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Sarah from Cape Town, South Africa. It's so amazing to be a part of this, so thank you so much for inviting me and having me here. I am the youth director for a progressive Jewish community in Cape Town for Temple Israel, and I run all of the youth programming as well as teach the students for their coming of age ceremony, their bar and bat mitzvah. My experience in the Jewish community in Cape Town, South Africa has really been one of growth and challenge along the way, but also inspiration. I started out going to an Orthodox school where I didn't really find my place, but I managed to really find my place in the progressive community, which is a really small part of our larger South African community, Jewish community. And yeah, it's really been one of growth individually, but now with this experience of giving back to the community, I feel so privileged to have been a part of this wholesome and welcoming community that I've found. Apart from my work in the Jewish community, I also am a facilitator for the Marlene Silbert Youth Interfaith Intercultural Program, which is our interfaith youth programming in Cape Town, South Africa, which brings together students from all different backgrounds and socioeconomic backgrounds and different schools and different faiths to come together to learn about each other for our program, which is incredibly focused on leadership development, and it's really been an amazing experience to see these students learning from each other and learning with each other, and to see to know that the future of our country is in really good hands, as I can see the youth growing up together and building on their leadership development. As part of my work with the Interfaith Youth Program, the Mussie, we have the opportunity to take all of these students from different parts of our community to learn together on camps and seminars. We run programs and workshops for them throughout the year and engage in various projects with them, and it's really been a privileged experience to see them all learning and growing together in these informal educational spaces. It is so important for me to be working with the youth today in my adult life and in my career, because I feel so privileged to have been a part of a youth movement growing up where we learned about ourselves and each other and the world in these informal educational spaces, and it's truly shaped me to be the person that I am, and I would definitely not be this person had I not been a part of those youth movements growing up, and given me so many opportunities to learn about the world that we live in, and the people around me and the relationships that we're building. And finally, we are working towards building leaders, our leaders of tomorrow, who are really our leaders of today. We see so many youth around the world leading us in struggles and fights and challenges that are so important to our society. And with that, we're also looking at things like environmental sustainability, such an important value to us. And of course, all of this just working into our values of love and kindness for one another, and people who love the world that we live in and are working towards global peace.
Greetings. My name is Cecil Plaikis. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa. I'm a Nichiren Buddhist and a member of the Soka Gakkai International. Soka Gakkai is a Japanese term which means the Value Creation Society. Nichiren Buddhism is based on the teachings of the Lotus Sutra. The main teaching from this particular sutra or Buddhist scripture is that every person has the potential to reach Buddhahood, so that enlightenment is open or available to all of us. why did I become a Buddhist? I grew up in a Pentecostal Christian home and enjoyed the experience as a child and also as a teenager. As an adult, I became, I would say, an agnostic, irreligious, unchurched. And then later, I started to delve into Asian teachings. But it still took me a long time because I only started practicing Nichiren Buddhism for the last 10 to 11 years. What made me decide to practice was the diversity I found among Nichiren Buddhists in South Africa. And that experience is actually the same all over the world. We are one of the most diverse Buddhist societies around. In the practice of Buddhism, we are encouraged to reach out, to practice exactly where we are, to reach out to our communities, reach out to our families, our friends. And it's not so much about being a missionary or convincing other people to join us, but to spread the teachings of Buddhism or the philosophy of Buddhism, because we believe that that is helpful to everyone and is actually helpful to society. In fact, the practice is about ourselves and also our environment and everybody in that environment. The term Soka in Soka Gakkai, value creation, is also used in education, because the Soka Gakkai actually started out not as a Buddhist organization, but as an education society. So educators in Japan, the founder, Mr. Makiguchi, was an educator, school principal, and also education college principal. And he came up with new ideas for education. So Soka education today means reaching out, finding people where they are, not imposing upon them, but starting from where they are and to build from there. So this idea of value creation is really to first acknowledge the value in people, in their situation, whether it's good or bad, but to actually see clearly what is there and what is useful or how to use that for improvement or the betterment of all. I'm an educator, and I make a living from tutoring. So I apply those principles in my daily life and also with my students or pupils or learners, as we call them in South Africa. Buddhism is a minority faith in South Africa, and not many people know about it. I often find that people confuse it with other Asian religions, of particularly Hinduism, of which we have a lot more followers in South Africa. And then we also have cases, or I experience cases, where people think of it as a form of idol worship and even something evil. So that could be perhaps influences from how they were educated or taught, seeing that idol worship is something bad. And then, of course, I explained to them that that's not what we do. When you see Buddha statues, it doesn't mean that that is a god or a divinity. That's not how we understand Buddhism, particularly in Nichiren Buddhism. And it's really about reaching out to people and making them understand who we are as Buddhists and creating more understanding amongst each other. I'm also involved with Interfaith, where I get a chance to speak to people from other religions, and particularly the major religions in South Africa, which will be Christianity. And in Cape Town in particular, we also have a large Muslim community. So we get a lot of interaction with those two. And in the interfaith community, obviously, the experience is a lot different because there's a more welcoming, people are more open. And in general, people have some understanding of Buddhism already. So it's much easier to talk to people. And in the interfaith activities also allow me to talk to people from those communities in their places of worship. Yes, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to talk to all of you at this event, and I thank you very much.
Om Shanti. Greetings from South Africa. Om Dhyao. Shanti Antariksha. Shanti Prithvi. Shanti Rabha. Shanti Roshadaya Shanti. Vanaspataya Shanti Vishvedeva. Shanti Brahma Shanti. Sarvam Shanti. Shanti Reva Shanti. Shanti Reni Om Dhyau. Shanti Antariksha Om. Shanti Prithvi. Shanti Rabha. Shanti Roshadaya Shanti. Vanaspataya Shanti Vishvedeva. Shanti Brahma Shanti. Sarvam Shanti. Shanti Reva Shanti. وإليك يعود السلام فحينا ربنا بالسلام Om Shanti.
Well, thank you. And as you can see, we are tremendously proud of our interfaith engagement right here in Cape Town. And we have found the healing power of interfaith to be something that just flows through our streets, through our words, through our hearts, and through our deeds. And we have discovered that the road which divides us is also the road that leads us to each other. And so as we have expressed our love of interfaith engagement in Cape Town, it's time now to wind a little bit further up into Africa to Malawi. And I'd like to welcome Father John Ngoma from Blantyre, Malawi, who Father John serves as a global trustee for United Religions Initiative. He represents he's the representative for the continent of Africa. And he has agreed to chat to us today about the meteoric explosion of interfaith engagement in Malawi over the last few years. I witnessed this rise myself. I have many friends, dear friends in Malawi, and I know that Father John Ngoma was foundational to the rise of interfaith engagement in Malawi through the connection with United Religions Initiative. Father John, please unmute yourself and allow us to see your video so that you can tell us the story of the interfaith growth in Malawi. Welcome, Father John. I'm so happy to see you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to see you too.
Tell us, Father John, about how did interfaith take off as such an engaging experience in Malawi? How did that happen?
Yes, so again, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really happy to join this meeting. Interfaith work in Malawi, I mean, maybe it has taken a number of years to succeed, but now we are seeing the fruits because we have been having so many challenges in Malawi, especially between the Muslims and also the Christians. Of course, Malawi is predominantly a Christian nation, but we also have Muslims and people from other religions. So mainly the challenge is between the Christians and the Muslims on a number of issues. Firstly, like in schools, we have Christian schools. Most of the schools in Malawi are owned by the churches. So our Muslim friends, they would send some students to the schools while putting on the hijab, and that was a big issue because the Christians were not happy that their fellow students should be putting on the hijab, and that was a national issue. And as URI, United Religions Initiative, we had to help in the dialogue between the Muslims and the Christians. So it was like a national dialogue, and we were involved in doing that. And in the end, we did a very good job because we invited the sheikhs, we invited the religious leaders to be from the Christian part to sit down and to discuss and find ways on how we can handle this issue. So it was settled amicably, and now the students from the Muslim part, they are allowed to put on the hijab in the Christian schools, and now it's water under the bridge. That was done. And again, in terms of maybe food, for example, in Mangochi, that's a district whereby there are so many Muslims, and they are not allowing pork to be sold in markets by the lords. They are saying, no, this is our district. We don't want you people to be selling pork, something like that. So again, that was an issue between the Muslims and the Christians. So we had also to come in and to help them. And the issue ended amicably. And again, the Muslims and the Christians are good friends, working together, talking together, and finding ways of developing their communities together.
That's wonderful, Father John. And I too have seen that growth of unity and understanding between communities in Malawi, and I commend you for all of that. But there've also been other really far-reaching campaigns that you've had, and I'm wondering if you would like to speak to us about the Girls Not Brides campaign that I know many of the United Religions Initiatives cooperation circles have been involved in, and that's been another very successful interfaith engagement.
Yeah, yes, that's very true. So working together, the Muslims and the Christians, we have done our level best to make sure that girls go further with their education, because initially they were just, maybe when they are 14, 15, 16, the parents would encourage them to get married. So they would drop out of school and get married at a very tender age, which was very bad. And again, that was against the laws of Malawi. But through our work, through the Girls Not Bride campaign, we tried to encourage the parents to send their girls to school. We tried also to encourage the girls themselves, empowering them and motivating them and giving them examples of what they can become if they can work hard at school. So you see now, like in Mangochi, where the program has been very successful, and across the country, we have seen the fruits that we have now many girls going to school, many girls going up to center school level, and others even going up to the university level. So by now, the awareness is everywhere that girls are not just to be brides, no, but they have to go to school, they have to work hard, finish maybe the university program, and then they can settle, they can have good marriages, they can have good jobs. So I think we really have done our level best through United Religions Initiative and through the Girls Not Bride campaign.
And that's a very important point as well that you've raised there about with the Girls Not Brides campaign, young women needing to be educated. And of course, another very successful and important campaign that you've been involved in, that URI has been involved in, has been the provision of sanitary towels as well as ablution blocks, toilets, running water in some schools. So to enable girls to go to school for an entire month and not stay home for the month when they have their for the week when they have their menstruation, and thereby missing a week of school every month. Can you talk to us about that campaign?
Yes, so we were trying to find the challenges that the girls were facing, the challenges that were making them not to go to school or not to work hard at school, or that would put them off when they are in school. So we found out that maybe we need to help them when they are going through the menstruation period. They should know how to handle that. They should have some knowledge, and also they should know how they can make the sanitary pads on their own. You know, not necessarily buying from the shops, expensive ones, no, but they should make locally. So through the Girls Not Bride campaign, we managed to teach so many girls across the nation how they can make the pads on their own, so that they can use them while going to school, so that they should not be disturbed while attending classes and so on. So again, that project has been very successful because now we even have women in the local villages who are able to teach the girls. The women have been empowered. They're able to teach their girls on how they can make the pads. And again, we have some girls who are also able to teach their fellow girls on how they can make the pads. So that's a very good project. And again, like in Kosibe, we have managed to build a very good toilet, very beautiful, very healthy toilet, so that the girls can be encouraged. They can live in a good environment, so that they can then work hard, concentrate on their studies, concentrate on their education without any hindrances or disturbances.
That's wonderful. And all of this development in a relatively short space of time. And I'm going to make a segue here. I see that there is a question in the chat about family planning. And I do want to actually just mention an experience that I had with URI in Malawi, and that was meeting a group of children who wanted to plant trees because they were desperate about deforestation, and they said that that would be the difference that they would make. So we then discovered during the conversation that something like 13 girls had fallen pregnant in the local school in the previous term. And that was very, that's a big number. However, 6 months later, when we went back to visit that group of people, we no longer had a small group. What this group had decided to do was they had decided to clean the market, and then they cleaned the local school, and then they cleaned the local hospital, and then they went to clean the prison, because they realized that what they had was cleaning equipment in their own hands and very little else. So they thought, well, if that's what we've got, that's what we'll use. But they did attract the attention of the local health authority, who introduced them to the local agricultural authority, who helped the children to go and meet the local tribal authority, who gave them some land. The agricultural official gave them some trees. And in all of that, the pregnancy rate at the school dropped phenomenally. And I'm just curious to know if there is something that URI is focusing on around family planning, or is that just an amazing fallout of the work that you're doing that seems to enable children to feel like they have something constructive to do?
Thank you so much. That's a good question. On family planning, we are trying our level best as we teach the girls that they should work hard in school, and also that they should take care of themselves. Within that, we also try to teach them on how they can, let's say, they should know the family practices, like family planning practices, the best practices that are there, so that they should be prepared and they should know what is coming ahead of them. Because we do believe that it's not good just to teach about family planning when the people are in the family, but they can also, from now, know what is happening. They should know the challenges maybe of doing this, the challenges of having so many children and failing to take care of them. So the girls are aware, the girls know that maybe if we do this, this will be bad. We have to work hard. And when we, let's say we get married, we have done our education, then we want to get married, maybe we should have a sizable number of children so that we can manage to provide for them, let's say paying fees, school fees for them, giving them the good health care. So that is all included in the awareness campaign, so that they can live a very good life, enjoyable life that they can be happy with. So yes, we include that. Apart from that, going further now on environment, we have just ventured into a very big project whereby, because our country Malawi, we have seen that in terms of climate change, there's a great impact, negative impact on our country. We have cut so many trees. So we want to replenish that, and we are planning to plant over 20,000 trees. Now we have 22,000 seedlings that are in the nursery through a project that we have recently managed to win, and also to like maybe with URI, and also there's an NGO in US and some donors. So we have managed to source the seedlings, 22,000, and this coming rainy season, we are planting them so that we can help in the climate change. We should have more trees, we should have a very good environment, we should have like a clean environment. So apart from the family planning, now on environment, we are also doing great things, trying to improve our environment by planting more trees.
That's wonderful, Father John. And of course, that also just speaks into all the other climate change factors that are mitigated when you plant trees. So, and that is actually that's a perfect segue, in fact, because that is a subject that we'll be exploring tomorrow, because there are going to be, we'll be speaking to some environmentalists from further up in Africa. We're winding our way slowly up through Africa, and we will be speaking to a number of people, including people who are very deeply engaged in food sovereignty and in climate justice and the economy. So, and the other thing about that is that our guest speaker for tomorrow is, of course, the famous Lewis Pugh, the endurance ice swimmer, who's going to tell us about his experience and his message for climate change, of how we should be taking notice. So I think we're going to leave that there for today, because we are coming up to the end of our time together. I did say in the chat that I felt that we'd reached the end of our time for questions, but I do think that this is a very, very important one that has just popped up into the chat. And John, if you could answer this in like 30 seconds. There is a myth in Africa that to cure AIDS, you need to have sex with a virgin, which also leads to many child pregnancies. And that's an interesting question, because it speaks into, we're teaching our girls, but are we teaching our boys anything?
That's a very good question. I like it. Yeah, so I think on boys, we are indeed failing, because that was in our planning meeting. We said, yes, the girls we are teaching them, but we are forgetting the boys. So we are planning to have like the same trainings with the boys, because we feel we are leaving them behind. And again, it's true that some people think that when they sleep with a girl, they can then cure the HIV and AIDS. Not even the girls, and also some believe that when maybe they sleep with the albino, you see, they get cured from AIDS. So there are so many myths in Africa that are really very bad, and there is need for more awareness campaigns. We need to teach our people in the villages that, oh, these are not true, but we have to do this A, B, C, D, E. Otherwise, it's not good, like to sleep with the girls, to sleep with the albinos, saying that it will cure HIV and AIDS. That's not true at all. But we just have to do the awareness campaigns, and we just have to work hard on that, so that many people can have the knowledge that it is not true. And again, just to finish up, maybe I know we're out of time. I just wanted to say this in terms of the differences that we have in the world, like in Africa, like in Malawi. My last words would be that we are one people. We are all created in the image of God, the Imago Dei. So we are one people. And again, our differences should make us to be more united. Our differences should make us to be more connected and to come together. You know, unlike terms attract. So if we belong to different religions, that means we need to attract each other. We need to get connected, we need to work together and improve our communities. Thank you.
Father John, thank you. And on that note, may I ask you to offer a closing prayer for our session for today, and invite you to come back tomorrow, everybody.
Right. Dear Lord, we thank you so much for this wonderful time that you gave us. Thank you so much that you were with us and you have been guiding us throughout the meeting. We ask you, God, that you should give us good, healthy lives, so that even tomorrow we can meet again and continue this important meeting, this important conversation, so that we can learn more and also improve our world to be a better place so that we can indeed be one people, because God, you are one, and also should be united and be one people. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Father John Ngoma from Malawi, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Sister Letta from Rustenburg, South Africa, for joining us live. Wonderful conversations, and thank you to each and every one who has been part of this program today. We're going to play out with a musical contribution, as well as some of the background to some of the people who've created the music that we've shared today. Thank you so much, everybody. Blessings. Have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya. Abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya. Abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya. Yo mfazi ongena nkombo. Nkombo ziyathengwa, zithengwa ngemali. Wena uzakwaliwa ngomfazi emakhaya. Wosithi bakhala ngento enjalo. Wosithi bakhala ngento enjalo. Wosithi bakhala ngento enjalo. Wosithi bakhala ngento enjalo emakhaya. Elzana. Abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya. Abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya. Abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya. Abanye baphelele ngumbone emakhaya. Yo fasongena nkombo. Nkombo ziyathengwa, zithengwa ngemali. Wena uzakwaliwa ngomfazi emakhaya.